Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to this episode. Today is the day that I'm finally talking about quitting my job. So as of now, I am officially self-employed. I have had a day job as long as I've been doing balloons. I've been at my current position for 10 years, and on March 1st, it was my last day. So I officially resigned about a month ago. Many of you know that already. And I just didn't really want to talk about the process of what that was like or how I prepared until it was officially done. So today I'm going to get into all of the details. Now, before I do, I just want to clarify that this was never really my goal. This wasn't something I was working towards. I know a lot of people start their business and the ultimate goal is to do balloons full time. That was never my goal. In fact, I was kind of an advocate for keeping the day job, and I still am. I think it's the right choice for most people. I got to the point where the stress of not only the job itself, but of juggling balloons, and then also this podcast has turned into another job, like that, it just became too much. I was working all the time, and the area where I was least interested was my day job. So in a position where I was previously really happy, I would say over the last year, it became something I was less and less interested in doing. And that's not a reflection that like the job was super terrible. I mean, there definitely were things where I was getting frustrated. I was asked to take on a lot of work that I wasn't being compensated for. The culture had shifted a little bit since COVID, and it just made for this moment where it felt like a good time to leave. And 10 years is a long time to be at the same job. Most people move jobs every like 2 or 3 years. I had been there for close to 10, and it just felt like it was time. That's kind of the way that I can explain it. But I'm going to talk about a lot of the things that got me to that point. One of them is definitely all of the books that we were reading in the book club. I just kept feeling these nudges to consider full-time balloons. And I know I'm the opposite. Most people, that's all they can think about. They just want to do full-time balloon business, and that just never was me, because I am very aware of the stressors that are going to come with full-time entrepreneurship. However, I don't think I was really aware of the freedoms either. Like, I think I was almost tricking myself for the past couple of years, thinking like, oh, but my day job's really secure and I really like it and the benefits are great. And the moment that I really started considering full-time self-employment, I realized I didn't actually really like my day job that much, and the benefits weren't that great. And all of these cracks kind of started forming, and once I saw them, it's like I couldn't unsee them. And then just on a day-to-day basis, everything that I'm excited about, I'm almost like hyper-focused. Like I can't stop thinking about things. And the things that I couldn't stop thinking about were my big balloon build that's coming up, this podcast, projects that I wanted to try, conventions that I wanted to go to. None of those things were in my day job. So I was now spending like 8 hours a day focusing on something that I didn't really want to focus on anymore, and got to the point where I just allowed myself the consideration, like what would it look like if I just did balloons full time. So that was the first hurdle that I had to get past. And I know most of you, that's not a hurdle. You would love to do balloons full time. It seems like a dream. For me, I didn't see that so clearly. I had to first allow myself to consider kind of the what if. And then once I did, it was like I couldn't put it back away. I couldn't undo those thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about, what if I only had to check one inbox every single day? What if I only had to focus on my work? What if I only had to focus on my projects? What if I had control to do the work that I wanted to do and not do the work that I wasn't interested in. It was like I couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. And I would say that I started thinking about leaving maybe like a year ago pretty seriously. And then I would say over the last month, really seriously. So it was like a lot. It was like a slow burn. And then all at once, I quit. So I'm going to get into it. So what kept me at my job? That's the part that I want to start at. Like, what kept me there? Because I think there's probably a lot of you that can relate or are stuck in positions where things are keeping you there. So the thing was, originally I really liked my job. That was a big reason I stayed. I really liked my job. I had a good community of friends at my job. It was secure. So that was everything from the paycheck always showed up to I had insurance, I had retirement benefits. It was kind of the definition of security. But it got to the point where it felt like I had too many tabs open in my brain, if that makes sense. Like I had so many different tabs open that like I was constantly feeling like I was going to miss something, whether it was at work or balloons or the podcast. Like I was juggling so much that none of it felt fun. And I realized that the idea of security was actually kind of a crutch for laziness. It got to a point where I was telling myself it was safer to stay at my job, but really it was just becoming lazier to stay at my job. And I was becoming a lazy employee, which I really like working. So I don't like being in that situation where I'm just doing the bare minimum and I'm just kind of trying to blend into the background. Like that's not really in my nature. So it kind of stunk when I was turning into that person at work. That wasn't how I wanted to be. And there were a lot of people that were just like, just stay, just do the bare minimum, just phone it in, just take the paycheck. And that's just like not really in my nature because like I said, I like working. I really enjoy working. But when all the excitement is lost, it really started feeling like a chore. And that's not fair to anybody. Funny, last year at Balloon Boss Summit in November, I remember a conversation at lunch with Jeff Kelly, who owns Asset Lab, and Elizabeth Fiore, who is my bookkeeper and, part of Fiore Tax Services. And we had a few other people from the event at our table. So if you were there, you might remember. And they were talking about quiet quitting. And I had never heard that term before. So I was like, what's quiet quitting? And Jeff was like, oh, it's kind of like, you haven't quit, but you're not really invested. You're kind of doing the bare minimum. You're not really engaged. You're not adding much. Like you've basically quit, but you're still just going through the motions. And I remember looking at Elizabeth and like kind of nodding like, oh yeah, I for sure have done that. I just didn't know that there was a name for it. So I would say I quietly quit about a year ago. And I think a lot of people did during COVID. Like it got really, really hard. So that was the first indicator. It's like, oh, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that bad employee. But I kind of just wasn't engaged anymore. I simply wasn't enjoying it. So my husband is another big reason of why I finally left because quite honestly, I was really unpleasant to be around. I was always tired. I was always grouchy. Even doing balloons wasn't fun because I was always so tired and so rushed. And finally, he was the one who was like, I think you need to think about leaving your job maybe like in summer. How about like June? And he actually put it on the calendar. He put it on our calendar like June 1st, put in your notice. And then I don't know what to say except that things quickly spun out of control. It was almost like once I had that permission, like I said earlier, the genie in the bottle, once it was out, it was like I couldn't stop thinking about it. And every time I was faced with a project that like I didn't want to do or a conversation that I didn't want to be in or something that just like sucked so bad at work, there was this idea of like I could actually just quit. Like I could just quit. And so we had that calendar date of June to consider. And from there, it was just like all bets were off. So within a week, I quit my job. So I know that escalated quickly, but there were a lot of things keeping me at work that, like I said, kind of started unraveling once I started looking at it. So I had this idea, okay, June 1st, I'm going to leave my job. What needs to be in place before then? The biggest thing was insurance. I have the health insurance for my entire family through my job. And I've always just been told, like, you just get the benefits through your work, and it's insanely expensive if you buy them on your own. So that was it. And this is a good example of where I was being lazy. I just took everybody's word. I just thought like, oh yeah, it's going to be so expensive. And I work for a college, so my benefits are really good. So I'd be crazy to leave. And the minute I started actually looking at what those benefits were, they weren't that good and they weren't that competitive. So then I started going on healthcare.gov, which is very overwhelming. Another excuse, I did that a couple times, and every time I would just get too overwhelmed and leave. And then I remembered actually an episode of the podcast. And this was with Haley from Pop Balloon Bar out in Washington. And she came on and gave an interview about self-employment. And she told us in that episode that there are insurance consultants that exist. So then I started thinking, okay, I need to find someone who knows what they're doing. I need to find someone who can just help get me the best health insurance out there. Because I can't do this by myself. It's too overwhelming. That same day, I got on a phone call with my friend Tiffany from Confetti Castle, and she's kind of like the tough love you need to hear, right? She was like, whatever, Sarah, benefits aren't even that expensive. And the way she said it, I was like, they're not? Like, I felt so dumb, but I was like, wait, they're not? Like, everybody tells me that they are. She was like, well, they're wrong, and they're not. So just figure it out. And I quit my job that day. So I called a consultant. I looked at the numbers. It really wasn't that expensive. He got me a quote to insure my entire family for like $400 or $500 a month. So of course I convert that to balloon columns, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 4 balloon columns, that's all? I can do that. And that was really what poured gasoline on the fire. So long story long, that same day, when I was driving to work and chatting with Tiffany, and I re-listened to the episode from Haley, and I got on the phone with an insurance consultant, that same day I had 2 back-to-back meetings, the kinds that make you want to put your head through the wall. And I got off these Zoom calls and I called my husband. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I think I'm going to quit today. And he like cracked up and was like, okay, it's not June 1st, but all right. And I felt like having that insurance piece in place was what I needed, because for me, that was I guess it was kind of the lie I had been telling myself, the reason that I could never walk away from a full-time job. And all of a sudden, it just didn't feel like an issue anymore. So that afternoon, that same day, I went in and I resigned. I gave a month and a half of notice, which I would not recommend. It was too long. But I wanted to make sure not to burn any bridges. I wanted to make sure to train my replacement and leave notes behind so I could go out on good terms. And that's kind of the story. I didn't let myself leave that day because I knew I would convince myself not to quit if I had a weekend to consider, or talk to my parents or talk to friends. Like, I just knew in that moment that I needed it to be final. I needed it to be permanent. And then I need to figure everything out after. So let's take a break. Let's hear from a sponsor. And then I'm going to talk about other things I did to kind of set myself up for this big step. And then things I've been telling myself since then so that I don't freak out. So we'll be right back after this sponsor break.
Are you looking to add grab-and-go garlands to your website so that you can increase revenue and send those clients somewhere when you're already booked for a date? If so, my name is Jeff. I'm with BalloonSuite.com, and my team specializes in online marketing for balloon decor businesses. We can help you get that grab-and-go garland flow set up exactly the way that we see working with many, many other businesses. You can learn more about what we do and reach out at BalloonSuite.com.
Okay, so I quit my job, and that part actually wasn't super scary. Quitting is something that I've not really ever done before. I've always worked in education, and with an academic year, there's always like a reason you're leaving positions. So my first teaching job was part-time, so I left for a full-time job, and then I got married, so I left for a different location, and then the academic year ended, and I was able to just transition out into my current position. So I've never had that real hard, like, I quit moment. However, my boss was super supportive and totally understood, like, who's going to say anything bad when you're saying you're going to pursue a full-time job that you've created, a business you've grown. Obviously, everyone has been very supportive about that, but it still was a little bit nerve-wracking. So in order to feel ready for this, there was more than just the insurance component. I would say that was like the final straw. That was like the last piece that I had to put in place. But some of the other like really practical things that I put in place, and these are overkill. This is me. I am an accumulator. I save a ton of money. Security is the most important thing for me. So I'm not saying that you should do these things before you leave a job. I'm just saying these are things that I actually did. And strange is that like I did these things without the intention of quitting my job. These were all just things that I had already done, not things that I started putting in place before I could quit. So obviously we talked about the insurance, right? Moving on to actual money, I saved a year of income in the bank. So I have a big cushion, and I know that as I draw down on that account, it's basically like a little indicator of how I'm doing. Ideally, my balloon business will just be self-sufficient and I'll be able to pay myself a regular rate, like as if I were employed, and that savings account won't be affected at all. But I do have a big cushion. It's not like I quit my job with $0 in the bank. I know some people do that. I am not wired in that way. I needed a huge cushion. So 1 year of take-home pay is what I have in the bank. The other thing that is huge for me is that we are debt-free. So all of my extra balloon money over the last 6 years, almost all of it has gone to paying down debt. And this again is just like a personal thing that I'm very passionate about. I hate carrying debt. I just started using credit cards and I don't even like that. I don't even like the monthly balance, even though we pay it off every month. That is very different for me. I have always been on a quest to eliminate debt. So as soon as my husband and I got married, we aggressively paid down student loans like within a year. We were definitely like children of Dave Ramsey's school of thinking. I have definitely loosened up on that. But this idea that until you're out of debt, you basically live on rice and beans. Like there is no time for fun. There is no money for recreation. It's all about getting rid of debt. Now that's extreme, but it worked for us. Like we paid it down literally in a year. We got rid of student loans. So from then, I was kind of in this savings mode. Like I love a good savings goal. So I built up that big nest egg, and then we started paying off cars, and then the big one was the house. And most of that comes from balloon money. However, I had that balloon money because I was also working a full-time job. So we are debt-free. We have money in the bank. I had to figure out the insurance. And then I gave a month's notice, which means I also get that last month of pay. And then my last day was March 1st, which meant that I got that entire month of insurance as well. So a bit of strategy went into figuring out when I was going to actually be done. Because if I left my job on February 28th, on March 1st, that insurance is done versus going one more day and then getting a full month of insurance through my employer. Some thought did go into that. So if you are thinking about leaving a job, make sure to chat with people who have left before you, kind of figure out how vacation time is paid out or if sick time is paid out. Maybe you want to use that all up before you give your notice. There was some strategy involved with that. But I definitely have built myself a nice cushion, and that's what I need to feel confident. I know there's other people who have quit their jobs with, no money in the bank, or you hear about these celebrities who go to Hollywood to become actors and all they have is their car and the shirt on their back. No can do. Sorry, I will never be that person. Like I need so much security. So I had those things in place, and then I had quit. And I was in this weird limbo for the last month and a half of like, I've quit my job, but I'm still working here. Technically, I could get my job back if I begged. Like I was waiting for these moments to freak out or for someone to tell me like, wow, that's risky. And then all of a sudden I unravel. And I told myself a couple of things so that wouldn't happen. And while I have had moments of freaking out, I feel like it has kind of manifested in a different way. It's not so much freaking out that I made a bad decision. It's more freaking out about like fixing things that aren't broken. I feel like now that I have all this free time in my business that I have to like ramp up sales or change my website or have a new offer or like I'm fixing things that aren't broken instead of just staying to course. So let me take a sip of water here. We'll take another break, hear from a sponsor, and then I'm going to talk about what I am telling myself on a daily basis so that I don't freak out. And And also just like some of the ways that I can already feel this full-time self-employment impacting me in my day-to-day. Teachable moments are back on Having a Party's Instagram Live. So this is super cool because it brings two of our sponsors together. Balloon Boss Summit is having a Teachable Moments edition, which means that instructors from Balloon Boss Summit, one of my favorite events of the year, are each doing a live teachable moment over on the Having a Party Instagram page. So this kicks off on March 5th with Joette, balloon coach herself, and then moves on to Party Divas, Party People events, Amazing Balloons Inc., Confetti Castle, and Animated Art Balloons. These are some of my favorite friends in the industry and people that I cannot wait to teach alongside with at Balloon Boss Summit in November. So don't forget to tune in to Having a Party's Instagram page starting on March 5th. Just head over there right now and give them a follow if you don't already so that you don't miss these awesome live classes. And I also can't wait to see all of these instructors share their knowledge. I never miss one, and you can even see them after the live event over on Having a Party's Instagram page. Also, if you are in the market for balloons, which we all are, don't forget to shop at Having a Party Wholesale over on havingaparty.com and use the code BRIGHTBalloon for 5% off at checkout. Okay, so I talked about a lot of things that I had in place before quitting my job, but then there were some things that I needed to get in place after quitting. One of those was like buying a computer and a printer. That sounds so silly, but like my computer and printer that I had at home just weren't going to cut it in terms of running a full-time business. So I upgraded my computer. I got a printer. I also set up a meeting. I have a financial planner and I met with him to just be like, how is this going to affect anything? Like I now don't really have contributions to a retirement account that are just like happening. So like, what is that? And he reassured me that like, Nothing really needs to change right now, and that maybe that's going to be a goal over the next year to set up like a self-employed savings account. I don't even remember what he called it. I have a Roth IRA, so does my husband. We're going to work together to kind of roll over some money into these accounts. I also set up a meeting with Elizabeth Fiore, who does my bookkeeping. She was really important in this situation because she kind of reassured me. And again, I like having these financial experts in my life who know more than me to just kind of reassure me that A, I'm in a good spot to leave my position, and B, I don't need to figure out everything right now. Like nothing is pressing. Elizabeth and I have plans to chat about changing my LLC into an S Corp in the future. But again, like now is not the time to be making those huge changes. There's just some room for change in some of those areas. And I needed to at least just get the financial people in my life just on the same page, knowing that I am leaving a W-9 job and that might change some things in the future. So what those things exactly are, I don't know yet. I think that would make a great episode to talk about how I'm going to continue contributing to retirement even though I'm self-employed. I don't actually know how like the taxes are going to change. If I waited to get all of that figured out, I never would have quit my job. But my first step was just getting those experts kind of caught up to what's happening in my life. The other big thing that I took action on right away is I'm getting my van wrapped. So that was a really big goal of mine a couple years ago, but going to work and then going to deliveries frequently meant that I'm driving my big white van to my day job. And I didn't want it to be a big wrapped balloon van. That just felt like kind of inappropriate. I didn't want the spotlight on my big balloon van parked in the employee lot. So I decided to hold off. But now I see it as a really great advertising opportunity. So almost right after, like I think the day or two after I resigned, I got the ball rolling on some artwork and found a company that's going to wrap my van, and hopefully that will be done at the end of March. All of this stuff that I'm talking about in this category, I think why I think it's significant is because it all costs a lot of money. So part of me is like, okay, I'm leaving my day job and now I need to be a hoarder of cash. I need to be super frugal. I can't spend any money. And I'm really proud that I didn't go that direction. Instead, I kind of leaned in. Instead, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I got to do this. I have that cushion for a reason, and now is the time to get a great computer. And wrap my van and continue saving for retirement. I don't just want to pump the brakes on retirement savings. I want to keep that going. So I want to maintain the kind of life or trajectory for retirement that I'm currently on. So it's scary to think about spending money right now, but I think it's important, and I think in the end it's going to continue to move me forward. All right, now, things that I kind of told myself while I was in the process of that limbo, right? I had given my notice, but I wasn't done yet. And I really thought I would wake up and be like, oh no, what have I done? That never happened. I will say though, I have felt like I'm worried. I do have like a healthy worry, like, oh gosh, I need to make sure my sales are up. And I feel like I'm maybe more worried about that now than I would have been if I had another source of income. But other than that, I have not had that freak out or that moment of regret. And I try to kind of come back to these very like black and white, non-emotional thoughts. One of those is that my earning potential is greater with balloons than it was at my job. Like I had been there for 10 years and gotten like one substantial raise, and then sometimes not even cost of living raises. So I was really maxed out at my day job, and there is no limit in balloons. So that's what I tell myself. Like I can make as much money as I want with balloons versus my earning potential in my day job was capped. That's one that I keep going back to. The other thing that I keep going back to is it's just a job. Like there is no certainty, there is no security. It's just a job. I could be fired tomorrow. So the idea of placing my security in a job at a university where I don't know what the finances are like, I don't know what the priorities are, I am not in control of those decision making, things like I could be laid off tomorrow from any job. There's no security. Just because it feels secure, it's not. There's nothing I can do to control anything. Versus in my own business, I can control everything. If I need to hustle a little bit harder, I can. If I need to generate a new stream of income, I can. If I need to go out and find a part-time job, I can do that, but I'm in control. Versus putting all of my eggs in the basket of full-time employment, I think that was kind of a lie I was telling myself, that idea of security. The other thing, this is really morbid. The other thing that I've been telling myself is like, we're all going to die. Like life is really short. And I have realized that more in the last year than ever before. I think as I get older, definitely having a daughter changes that. Like you become very aware of your own mortality, and this idea that like nothing is permanent, everything could be gone tomorrow. So I am just choosing to live now and do things that make me happy and not overthink it. So life is short. I don't want to work a job that I don't like for 30 years just so I can retire and maybe die the next day. Who knows? So life is short. And then the last thing I keep telling myself is if I run out of money, I can just go get a job, right? Everyone is hiring right now. Leaving this position, I think I started thinking in my head, I was like retiring, like I would never work again. And I had to have all the money that I needed for the rest of my life stockpiled and holed away like a little squirrel. And that's not the case. If I have to go get another job because balloons aren't working, that's fine, right? It's not like I was leaving my dream job. I had a 45-minute commute. There was a lot that frustrated me about my position in recent years, and I can always just go find another job. And now I also think with the networking that I'm doing with balloons, it might actually lead to a job that would work better for balloons. Like maybe it's in the event industry, or maybe it's with a chamber of commerce, or maybe it's with some of the connections I'm making through the big balloon build. Like I'm open to some of those ideas now, even though I am very excited to just focus on balloons and work for myself for the time being. All right, the last thing, I just have a page of notes I've written myself, and these are things that I've realized since giving my notice, since resigning. And these are just unedited thoughts that I have had over the past month. So here we go. So first up, this one makes me really sad, but I didn't know how unhappy I was. I also didn't know how tired I was. So that was really interesting. I if you had asked like how much do you like your day job, I would have been like, it's like a 7. Like it's good, it's solid. But since giving my resignation, since almost like taking off the rose-colored glasses and realizing there's something else, I would say my satisfaction has dropped to like a 3. Like I'm actually allowing myself to be like, wow, I actually really was unhappy and I didn't even realize it. So that's sad, but also exciting that I've realized it. Same thing for like exhaustion. I didn't really realize how much I was doing because now that I'm technically doing half of what I was doing before, I'm filling days. Like I run out of time routinely to get things done, and I'm already like, how was I doing a full-time job in addition to this? So I'm really excited to just have a bit more freedom. One of my things that I realized is that I gave too much notice. So I gave 7 weeks of notice thinking that they would hire my replacement and I'd be able to train them. However, they haven't hired my replacement. And instead, the last 7 weeks have just been people piling on projects that they'd like me to finish before I go. So I would not recommend giving that much notice. My business asks me to give a month. I don't think you're legally required to give a month, but I gave even more than a month. So I wouldn't recommend giving that much notice. I've also freaked out, but I haven't regretted it, if that makes sense. Like I have gotten nervous, but I have not had any regret in terms of giving my notice or leaving my position. Another thing that I have written down here is that I feel a greater pressure to keep my current clients happy. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. I feel a greater pressure to keep my current clients happy, and I think this is really good. So basically, it's much harder to get new clients, right? When I think about increasing sales now that I have the time, it's much more difficult to now increase the number of clients I'm working with rather than focusing on the clients that I already have and maybe trying to increase their budgets or do so well this year that next year they increase what they order. It's given me the focus and the attention to what I already have, and I think that's really good. That's something that I'm happy that I'm able to see so clearly. Another thing that I have written down here is that I'm excited to take a real vacation. That is something that I never noticed either. I've always had paid time off, and I felt very lucky, like, wow, I'm on vacation and I'm getting paid. This is so great because I'm a salaried employee. But when you go on a week vacation, when you go back to work, you have to catch up on that week that you missed. It's not like I worked at Starbucks where I would just like take a week off, and then when I returned, I would start making drinks again, right? Like you start where you left off, or you start, where you came back. I would then have to go back to work and catch up on a week's worth of work in addition to doing my current workload. So I've never really been able to actually just go on a vacation and then come home to anything other than a pile of work waiting for me. So I'm really, really excited, and the timing couldn't be better because at the end of March is when I'm hosting the big balloon build in my town, and I think it became clear that it was like, wait a minute, I get to enjoy this. And then when it's over, I get to enjoy that as well. Like I get to enjoy just going back to work instead of catching up on everything that I'm behind on. I'm not going to be behind on anything. Like I'm very excited about that. And I feel like the only people who will understand that is people who have day jobs, who go to conventions, who go to classes, who take a couple days off to do a big install. That work that you missed when you were gone is still waiting for you when you return, and I'm very, very excited to break that cycle. And I hadn't really realized that. I hadn't really realized how much work I was doing just to take a vacation. You take work to prepare to leave, and then you do a bunch of work when you get back. Sometimes it doesn't even feel worth taking a vacation or taking days off. So I'm so excited that this new phase will basically rewrite and reprogram what a vacation looks like. Another note that I have is I'm surprised how much I'm able to fill my days with balloons and podcasting. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know how I was doing both for so long, but I don't feel like I'm sitting around thinking like, what should I be doing? Like I have so many ideas. I have so much that I want to do, especially when it comes to the podcast. Like I feel like I have so many plans there that now I actually have time to do them. And I'm just surprised how I'm able to easily fill all the time. And then, and the last thing that I have written down here is this pressure that I felt immediately to ramp up sales. And I think that was other people's narrative that I just kind of took on as my truth. Like a lot of people were like, wow, if you're doing 150 in sales while working full time, you'll be able to do $500,000, no problem, now that you're full time. And I was like, what? Like, I started getting freaked out. Like, okay, yeah, I'm full time, so I need to like double or triple my revenue now. And I've chilled out a little bit on that, and that's good because it was freaking me out a bit, and I was kind of starting to spin out of control. I certainly want to make more money, but I don't want to just fill all of my time with more balloon stuff now. Like I already have a full-time income from balloons. Like I don't know what my final number was last year. I think I was at like 180 in sales, and it's just me and then a part-time inflator. So like that's enough money for me to live on. That is a full-time income. Do I want more money? Sure. But am I going to kill myself now to double or triple those numbers? No, I don't want to. And the thing that I keep coming back to is my daughter. I am in a season of life right now where she is 3 years old. She is in daycare part-time, and I will just see her less and less and less every year for the rest of her life, right? Like eventually she will be in school full days. Then she will be able to drive and won't want to hang out with me. Then she'll be in college and not even live here. Then she'll be on her own, and then she'll have a family of her own, and it's just less and less and less. So right now in this season where she is little and home and I have time to be with her, I'm not going to push myself to fill every waking hour with sales and balloons and jobs. Like right now is just not my time to blow up my business. Maybe when she's in first or second grade and she's gone for 8 hours a day, that's a more appropriate time to do that. Or maybe I'm just going to maintain this same level of work forever. I don't have any idea, but I felt this immense pressure to blow up my sales now that I'm full time. And I've had to kind of come back down to reality and what works for me. And right now that's the reality that I have a 3-year-old who's at home most of the time. And I'm going to enjoy that instead of putting the pressure on myself to stress out and fill every waking moment with balloons, because then I'm just right back in the situation that I just got out of, which is being stressed, being overwhelmed, working too much, never having a true vacation, never having a break. So I just want to take a year to live in this current kind of sales range, like what I'm currently doing, and see how that goes before I change everything. So that's a not a very exciting way to end that. My big plan is no new big plans, but I just want to enjoy my life right now. Like there have been moments where I'm working at a coffee shop and then I get to go pick up my daughter and then I get to close my computer and do nothing the rest of the day. And like, that is just the life I want to live right now. Like I just feel so fortunate, so excited that I get to settle into this full-time self-employment, which for me is a lot less work than what I was doing before. And I'm excited to see what new things I become interested in, what new things I get to try, how it changes my life. Obviously, there will be more episodes about this because literally I'm like one day self-employed. So I think as the years go on, a lot will change. I definitely want to have an episode about finances, how some of those investments and taxes have been impacted because of self-employment. There's so much here, but like I always do when I make a big life change, I like recording really, really early when it's still fresh. Right now it's very fresh. I'm very excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but it was 100% the right decision for me at this time. So thank you to all of you, your support. I've gotten so many nice messages already. People are so excited and encouraging. And I hope this is motivation for some of you who are still at your day job, some of you who maybe don't want to leave your day job, and some of you I know desperately do want to leave your day job. I don't know if there's any advice in this episode. This is just what I am going through. So I will talk to you guys next week in another episode. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, 17 Hats. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably own a small business or you're hoping to start one. You're tuning in because you want to get better at what you do. Well, here's an easy way to leap forward. Manage your business better with 17 Hats. 17 Hats is a premier management platform for a business of one just like me. In no time with 17 Hats, you can improve how you inbound and evaluate your leads, manage client communication, and automate scheduling, just like I've done with all of my grab-and-go balloon garlands. Client phone calls, sending contracts back and forth via email is all such a time sponge, and 17 Hats lets you regain hours in your day by taking care of all of that for you. So if you're looking to improve, then improve how you do your business. That is the easiest way to make more money. And 17 Hats is the resource that I recommend to manage it all. Get started for free at 17hats.com.